You're listening to From Heaven and Hope, a weekly podcast where Nicole Fraser brings you conversations from those who have been affected by grief. Whether a parent, child, friend, counselor, pastor, or philanthropist, everyone moves through and conquers grief in their own way. We know that what you're facing is a long road, but no matter how dark that road is, there will always be light. There will always be purpose. From where they are in heaven to the hope you need to move forward, we want to help you on that journey. Here is today's episode.
I am so happy to have my first guest here. Today we're going to hear from Rachel Terza, who is an amazing speech pathologist, mother, and friend. She's one of the many mamas that you will hear from in the coming weeks and months that has been through the ringer. But you'll soon see that she truly has found the rainbows following her storm. So here she is, Miss Rachel Terza. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, so for anyone listening at home, Rachel and I do know each other and have for quite a while. Rachel's sister, Amy, is one of my closest friends. However, Rachel and I are connected in a different way as well. We are part of that 1 in 4 statistic. We both suffered from pregnancy and infant loss. So, Rachel, why don't you share with everyone a little bit about your story?
Sure. So, my name is Rachel. I am 37 years old, and I have quite a history in terms of fertility. My husband and I met way back when we were 15 or 16 years old, and have been together since we were about 18. We got married in 2010 after studying abroad in Australia for a couple of years at a dream wedding in Mexico, and started to try to have kids after that. Unfortunately, we had a miscarriage first, which was devastating, but we knew that we would keep trying and keep moving forward. Then in 2012, we had our son, Benjamin, who's now 8 years old and just a complete joy to us. After Ben, we decided to start trying for more kids again and had a bit of a struggle, but we did get pregnant again with twins in 2016. Unfortunately, that is the one that ended in the most devastating loss. We lost our twins in early December at 28 weeks gestation due to a massive placenta abruption, and they were both born still. After that, we had another miscarriage. And then in 2018, we welcomed our little rainbow baby, Michaelin. And she's now 2 and just an absolute rainbow in our lives.
Totally. When you gave birth to the twins and even in the miscarriage situations, did you have anyone in your circle or anyone you knew that you could lean on for support during those times?
Well, as you said, we knew each other before and you had gone through something not at all the same, but similar in terms of infant loss. But we didn't know each other super well. I also knew of another girl who had just had a stillborn, but again, not super well. So it was hard. It was almost like I didn't think it would happen to me, already knowing other people that it had happened to. You really feel like that's not going to happen to me, and then it does. I did get to meet another girl who we were connected together, who also suffered a stillborn in late December of the same year. So we actually became instant friends and were able to lean on each other and are still awesome friends. So we have connected super closely through something so awful. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I leaned on family and close friends, but nobody truly understands until they've gone through it. And I don't wish it on anybody.
Right. Of course. So you would say that the person you look to the most for support is somebody that you connected with via, I'm not sure how you got connected, but the person you got connected with who had been through something similar.
Yeah, it was actually our photographer. She reached out and she said that she had another client who had just suffered a loss too and wondered if she could connect us. So yeah, I would absolutely say the person that you could talk most openly with is somebody that has gone through it as well, because they just get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as far as people who hadn't been through it, or like your general kind of friendship circle and family, what did you find the most helpful and not helpful in regards to support?
Yeah. So for me, and I know it can be different for all different people, but for me, it was the ability to talk about them and to acknowledge that they were. Mm-hmm. It was the best when people, brought them up in conversation without worrying that they were going to make me upset. So yes, it totally made me upset, but it made me upset in a good way because I could actually talk about them. Whereas when people didn't bring them up, it was like they never existed, which was even harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was it was a good upset. Like I wanted to be upset around my friends because it meant that I could talk about them.
Right. Man. Yeah. That's so true. Cause it doesn't change. They don't leave your mind. They're never gone from your presence.
No. So people are never going to bring them up and make me think about them because it's never going to be like that. And
right.
They're always there. And I totally thought I was over this.
No, it's okay. It always happens. Every time you kind of, yeah. Hopefully it feels cathartic.
Yeah, it totally comes back. But yes, they are good tears. It's good to still cry and still remember about them and still talk about them, because I will talk about them forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you guys got tattoos, or at least Chris did, I think, right?
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I got their footprints one on each wrist with their birth dates, because they did actually have different birth dates too, which is kind of cool for twins. So
that's so cool.
William was born just before midnight, and then Oliver was born just after midnight. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And do you want to just quickly, because it's just so cute, talk about Chris's tattoo and the middle names, like the boys' middle names, like how you came up with those?
Yeah. So we had asked Ben. So Ben was 3 at the time, and we had asked Ben what he wanted to name his brothers when I was still pregnant with them. And he, out of nowhere, said Happy Snowman, Cinderella and Happy Snowman. And we were like, yeah, right. Like as if we would ever name like 2 boys, Cinderella and Happy Snowman. And then when we were in the hospital and we were holding our babies, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, why not? So yeah, William became William Cinderella Tirzah, and Oliver became Oliver Happy Snowman Tirzah. And I laughed because someone way down the line is going to do our family tree and is going to find these babies that have these names on our family tree, and they're going to wonder what the hell we were thinking. But it was why not? Right? Like, why not give Ben the chance to name his brothers? So yeah. So Chris's tattoo's on the back of his leg, and it says, "We will till we meet again. We'll meet again one sunny day." It's a quote from a song. I can't think of it right now, but and then he has a little picture of a snowman and a little picture of a crown, and
it's so cute. And such a nice way for Ben to feel connected to them too, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
As he grows up, who knows what he'll remember because he was little. So
exactly, we wanted to make sure that they will always be a part of our lives, and yeah, this is Ben's way of being with them.
I think it's awesome. When the complications happened with the twins, I remember where I was that night, because I was actually with Amy that night.
Yeah.
And 2 pregnancy announcements came in, one of twins. And then the next miscarriage that you had, another 2 pregnancy announcements came in that night. And I was with Amy that night too. So strange.
Yeah.
It was Shannon and I. And so I just wondered, based on that, how did you manage your emotions and the complexity of feelings with friends and family that were expecting without complication, or seemingly, and then, until at least McKaylin was born?
Yeah. it was hard. I always kept saying to people that I could be happy for my friends, but still sad for myself at the same time. And I wanted people to get that even if I was sad about it, it didn't mean that I was sad for them, because a baby is just the biggest joy that anyone can have. And I would never ever take that away from someone, or that feeling, because I don't want anyone to feel like they can't talk about it to me. So I always wanted my friends and my family to be able to let me know that they were pregnant, and I would be 100% supportive and happy for them. But yeah, there would have always been a sadness inside me. Mm-hmm. I still get it. So we just found out friends of ours are expecting twins, actually. And there's still a little bit of a gut punch, right? Like, I think the word twins is just such a trigger. Mm-hmm. And I was open with them, and I said to her, I said, I'm so happy for you, but like, the word of twins just brings back every single rush of emotion and feeling and everything else. And am I excited to meet these twins? Absolutely. Like I can't wait for them. Mm-hmm. But there's always going to be a hit of feelings when I hear the word twins. After McKaylin came, I feel like maybe it eased off a little bit, and other people, like, I was noticing every single pregnant woman that walked past me mm-hmm. in that first year before we tried again. And I feel like I'm probably not noticing that as much, but yeah, I would still say pregnancies, and especially the word twins, is still a trigger. Mm-hmm.
So no matter what. Do you avoid it, or do you have kind of tactics to kind of like get you through?
No, I don't avoid it. I don't think. I think that it's almost a nice way just for me to remember them each and every time. So now every time I see someone that's pregnant or someone has a pregnancy announcement, I get that feeling of love for them inside. As you said, they're never out of my mind, but it brings them fresh, and I get the chance to kind of really think about them and bring them to the forefront of my mind, and really cherish that I did have them for a short amount of time, even though it wasn't at all what we wanted or hoped or dreamt. But at the same time, I also have to know that McKaylin maybe wouldn't have been here if what happened didn't happen. And it's a really hard thing for me to kind of wrap around my head, because I wouldn't change what happened. I would change what happened to the twins if I could, but I wouldn't change McKaylin either. So it's almost a constant battle in my head, because how can I want to change what happened to the twins without wanting to
change McKayla?
So, yeah. So it's a battle, but
yeah, I understand that battle. I struggle with that same mentality, right? Like if everything worked out, life would probably feel a little less painful, but then I wouldn't have Kyla. So I understand.
Right. And totally you wouldn't change it. So yeah. It's hard to articulate that battle, because again, people that don't get it.
Yeah. And even if you have suffered a loss and then like that was like you weren't having any more, or like there wasn't, I mean, that's equally as sad, but just the sort of conflicting in your mind is a little bit different, because you can just say it wasn't supposed to happen, but it's hard to say that.
Right.
When you have good stuff happen after too. So within your marriage, did anything change? Do you feel like you grieved differently? How do you think you managed through, I mean, both the miscarriages and the birth of the twins? I would imagine the birth of the twins would be the most straining, but.
Yeah, we definitely grieved differently. Mm-hmm. I think Chris grieved more internally, and I grieved more externally. The social worker at McMaster Hospital did tell us to really stick together, because she said stuff like this can rip marriages apart. And I think that that kind of always stuck with me. So even when things got tough, I kind of would never let it get so tough that we didn't talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Chris and I are also just very different people in general. So I'm very, very open and chatty and always want to tell my story and get it out there for the world in hopes that I can ease someone else's pain slightly, or bring awareness, or anything else, or any positive that could come out of such a crappy situation. Whereas he holds everything inside. So I kind of always had to remember that and tell myself that that was okay too, even though it wasn't the same. Because it probably could have ripped us apart. In all honesty, it probably very easily could have changed our relationship for the worse. And I thank the social worker for letting us know that, like, in advance, that it could have happened that way, because it gave me that insight to give him the chance to grieve in his way too, and not hold it against him.
Yeah.
Because it was very, very different.
Yeah. And do you feel like now, like, it's been a couple of years and you have McKaylin, and there's been kind of other things that have happened. Do you feel like now you're sort of in a place where it's not as complicated. It's not as
absolutely
painful.
Yeah. I definitely, time does heal, but it never heals totally. So yeah, I would say, and especially between Chris and I, like, we don't have that constant achy, awful, brokenhearted feeling all the time that we're having to battle on top of everything else. It's just that dull ache. I don't know if you read the poem that I put up, or the thing that I put up very recently about the Stones.
I can't remember.
So anyway, it's on my Facebook if you want to.
I'll pull it and put it on the website when we post this. So at that point you had Ben, and he was just a toddler. Did he have any adjusting to do? Was there adjustments that he had to make? Did he have any questions, or was he kind of oblivious, being as little as he was?
I would say he was fairly oblivious. Again, we were very aware of wanting to keep the twins in our lives. So we kept talking about them as hard as it was, so that he kind of grew up knowing about them. And he does. So he now, talks about his brothers. I don't think he remembers. He was too young. I don't think that he fully gets it still at 8. I think, again, he won't get it unless something awful like this happens to him, which I hope and pray obviously it doesn't. But I don't think he was overly aware. I think he more felt the struggle that we were going through in terms of how we were parenting. So it was difficult for us to turn off our grief and be fully happy for him, especially being around Christmas time. And I mean, we it's the whole, like, fake it till you make it, right? We did our best, but I'm sure he felt that we weren't the same parents as we were just before. So I'm sure he did feel it, but I'm hoping that we were able to fake it enough that he didn't have any long-term issues.
And so speaking of Christmas, did you do you anything special for the twins at Christmas or on their birthday or anything like that?
So we do something every year for their birthdays. It's always something different. But we do try to celebrate with some sort of cupcake or cake or something for their birthdays. This past year, we went to the light display in Niagara Falls at the Safari Niagara, the drive-through, which was really cool because there was actual Cinderella and snowman displays everywhere. So we felt super connected to them. It feels like there's something that can connect us to them everywhere we go. But yeah, we try to celebrate them on their birthdays. And then at Christmas time, we always try to do some sort of photo that includes them. So we've got some teddy bears for them. And we've got little teddy bears that my mom gave us. That's a little Christmas teddy bear, 2 together with Christmas hats and stuff on. So we always put them out every year and think about them.
That's awesome. So for anybody who's listening, who's trying to support like a friend who might be grieving, whether it be a child loss or really anybody, what do you think you would tell, or what would you do for somebody who is going through something similar or grieving? Is there something would make you feel particularly supported when you were struggling?
Yeah, I would find out what kind of person they are. So I have another friend who lost a baby um, later on, and she was the total opposite to me. She did not want to talk about it at all. So what I would do is kind of find out what kind of griever your friend is, and then do whatever they need. So if they need someone to talk about their loss, then absolutely be there and talk about it, even if it's difficult for you to talk about it. But if they need you to not ask about it, then just be there to support them and talk about other things, and just be there. I really like the people that just dropped in and had a cup of tea with me and chatted, and for me, talked about them was the best. But I really do, going through this, I see that there are people that don't want to talk about it too, and it's okay. So I really, as much as it's hard for me because I want to talk about it to everyone in the world, I know that that's not the same.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. So when moving on to your pregnancy with McKaylin, did you find that you were then more anxious and worried throughout your pregnancy? And how did you manage those feelings if you felt that? Because at that point you would have had you would have lost the twins, but had 2 miscarriages as well. So how did you kind of navigate that?
The anxiety was definitely high. I have a fantastic doctor. So my family doctor also delivers. So I have had him since I was little, and his support was huge. And he took in all of my anxiety and all of my feelings. And so I did my own research. And I kind of let him know that I wanted to see the doctors in Mount Sinai, the placenta doctor. And he was all for it and sent me there. So there was a lot more appointments, which sometimes made the anxiety higher, but also it also helped because you got to get that reassurance way more often. Mm-hmm. And I was actually able to share care. So half of my care was still with my family doctor, and then the other half was with Mount Sinai until we got past the 20-week mark, in which case they kind of could let us know for sure that the placenta was doing well. And there's a certain point and they kind of know if the placenta is going to start to fail or if it's not. Mm-hmm. So once we got to that point, we were able to be transferred back home to our family doctor for the whole time. So I would say that the anxiety was always there, because once you've had a late term loss, you know the stories of all the things that can happen, and it's scary. It's really, really scary, all the awful things that can happen. And then at 37 weeks, we found out that she still hadn't gone head down. And so we were booked in for a C-section the next day or 2 days later or something, because they didn't want me to run the risk. She was laying sideways. And the risk is that if I go into labor, then the cord can come out first and can cut off all blood supply. Mm-hmm. So knowing all my history and everything else, then they decided that taking her a little bit early was better for my mental health as well as her physical health. Mm-hmm. So of course your anxiety goes through the roof again, because, she's another possibly difficult birth, but those feelings all disappear in terms of pregnancy anxiety the minute that you meet your little baby, and then out comes the, oh my goodness, I have another baby that I have to look after and keep alive. And so all those anxieties come in. But yeah, I would say that the anxiety was definitely higher through her pregnancy, but I kept telling myself that everything was going to be okay. And that seemed to help.
That's awesome. And so as McKaylin gets older and as Ben gets older, do you find it bittersweet? Do you feel like you're thinking about the twins and where they would be, or do you not? Do you associate them with someone completely different?
Oh, absolutely. Everything I do, I think, what would our life have been like with possibly 4 children or 3 children or all boys, or I go to the school and I see the kindergarten kids going in, and they would have gone to school last September. And I think where we would have been then, and this pandemic and everything else, and thinking, oh my goodness, I would have been homeschooling 3 boys with possibly a toddler running around, or, And it just, there's definitely bittersweet days. There's definitely days that I laugh and think, I honestly don't know how I would do it. And then there's days where there's lots of pain too. And I think that, like they could be doing this, or one might be a hockey kid, or one might be a soccer kid, and the wonder of what would be. But I am able to be very, very, very happy with what I have, and so grateful for what we have. So it's mixed emotions, and it will always be mixed emotions.
So do you have any like strategies or things that you do to kind of kick yourself out of those like sad moments, or is it just being grateful for where you are now?
It's pretty much just being grateful for what I am at now, where I am now. I do give myself the time to grieve if I need it still. So my little moments alone, maybe like being in the shower or driving in my car by myself, I definitely give myself those times to be sad, because it's important to still feel it. It's not going to go away. And if I just keep tucking it away and getting rid of it, then it's going to come out like a volcano at some point. So it's so important to give myself the chance to be sad, because you know what? It's something to be sad over, and it's something I'll be sad over forever. So
yeah. And there's no expiry date on grief. You're just going to kind of feel it when you feel it. But as long as you can kind of move through it, that's Absolutely. All you can do.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit? You've done a couple like initiatives in their honor, like fundraisers and things. Do you want to maybe share a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we 1 year after their birth, I decided that I wanted to give back to McMaster. I had such strong feelings about my care. I had such wonderful care at that hospital, and I couldn't have thanked the doctors and the nursing staff more.
It's very true. It's very true. They're very special.
And so I decided I wanted to give back, and I wanted to give back to the neonatal unit and help support the babies that did make it. So we did a fundraiser, and half of our fundraising money went to the neonatal unit, and then the other half of our money went to support other families that have gone through grief. Because they also put on twice a year, they put on a remembrance celebration for families, and you can go in and you can listen to others speak, and you can light a candle for them. And it really, really helped me. So I wanted some of the money to go towards that and make sure that they could continue doing that for other families ongoing. So we did a fundraiser, and we raised just over $5,000 the first year. And then the next year we did an online auction and raised over $6,000. So it was really, really, really great to give back. Mm-hmm. I hope to do another one in the future, but again, having Michaelan and then the whole pandemic just threw a wrench in everything.
I feel you on that one. So, we were doing something as well and had to put it on hold, but it is what it is.
We'll do something again, but it was also kind of nice to take a step back and just deal with life as it is right now. But we will always give back.
Yeah. Us too. And actually, for anyone listening, on April 20th, we're going to be recording with one of the reps from the foundation at MAC. So she'll be talking a little bit about initiatives that people can do and ways to make you feel better, what the hospital could use, that kind of stuff. Are there any resources that you found particularly helpful, like books, podcasts, anything like that, either like when you were in the thick of it or afterwards? Is there anything that you would look to for support or for help?
Yeah, you know what? There was a fantastic book called The Exact Replica of the Figment of My Imagination, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
And it was a book about a woman who had suffered a loss, and then almost exactly a year later, she had a baby. And she was an author, and she was able to write everything that I was feeling and able to articulate it in such a way that it just stood out to me. And I read it and I sobbed my way through the entire book, but it really made me, it was a book that I was able to then pass on to my family and friends so that they could read and they could kind of feel what I was going through without me having to find the words, because I felt like I couldn't articulate it as well as she did.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome. Yeah, it was a fantastic book. And and written in a way that was an easy reader for anybody to read it.
And that's good advice, actually, to give people that don't understand, but that care about you, a way to kind of understand what you're feeling without you have to go through the exhaustion and like emotionally exhausted task of telling them like over and over.
I'm not an author, and I don't have the perfect words to articulate how I feel. And I just feel like I want to be able to tell my story in the most perfect poetic way, but it just doesn't come out to really showcase my feelings. It's hard. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. So thank you so much. This has been awesome. Before we go, is there anything that you want to share? Anything that we missed? Anything you want to say to anybody who's listening?
No, I don't think so, but I'm always happy to be an ear for somebody that needs it. So if anyone, needs someone that's gone through it and needs a support, I am 100% here, and I will leave my contact details with Nicole, and anyone can reach out if they need someone, because I do get it. And I feel like I want to support as many women, families, couples as I can to get through this, because you will get through it. It will be tough, and it will continue to be tough, and it will always be a part of you, but you do move forward. I don't think you ever move on, but you do move forward.
Totally agree. Thanks so much.
So there you go. Some pretty fantastic advice and perspective from a fellow angel mama herself. If you want to check out anything about Rachel, you can review our show notes page on the From Heaven and Hope podcast website. Take care, everybody.